We still have a little bit of structural work to finish up, namely adding some structural columns to support the roof and balconies, and finally adding a footing to our foundation, which we'll take care of in the next lesson. Let's get those columns in there, okay? Now, before adding columns, I like to create a grid to govern the columns' locations. Right now, since we're in the 3D view, the grid icon is grayed out. But if I switch to a 2D view, like the site plan, the grid icon becomes available. I'm going to select it. Now all I need to do is sketch the grid lines. I'll sketch 2 vertical grid lines going from bottom to top, and the grid line will be just inside this reference plane, inside the balcony. And I'm going to create the second grid line a bit inside of the far right reference plane as well. Okay, now for the horizontal grid lines, and I'll sketch these from left to right. Again, I'll keep this grid line inside of the reference plane, and I'll press Escape to exit the tool and change its name to A. Now, instead of relaunching the grid tool, I can simply Control-drag the grid line to create the final line. And I'll drag it right under the lowest reference plane here. Notice Revit took care of naming it for me. Alright, with the grid created, we can now add the structural columns. I'll click the column icon on the ribbon, and I'll begin by clicking Edit Type. Let's load up the column we want to use. I'm going to browse to the Structural folder, Columns, and let's use a steel column. This round one here should work nicely. Structural columns, by the way, have lots of types belonging to the same family, so Revit asks me which ones I'd like to load up. You can load up as many as you want, but we'll only need one type. Okay, and I'm going to look for the size I want, and then click OK to load the column type into the project. And I'll click OK again to exit the type properties. Now, notice there are placement options at the top. If I click the multiple drop-down, you can see there's an option to place the columns at grids. We'll use this to quickly add them all at once. And I'll Control-select the grid lines and then click the green check. This adds 4 columns at each of the grid intersections. Alright, now I can press Escape to exit the Columns tool. Let's switch to the 3D view and see how everything looks. And you can see the columns here. Let me go ahead and delete this one really quickly because we actually only need 3. Just click the column to select it and press Delete. Now let's attach the rest of the columns. And I'll select this column here, and I'm going to change the base value in the properties to the top of footing level so that it extends down below the topo surface. Next, with the column selected, I'll click the Attach Top Base icon on the ribbon. Revit gives me a warning telling me that I just attached the column to a non-structural target. This is fine, so I'm going to simply dismiss it. Now I can repeat the process for the 2 remaining columns. I'll select the column, change the base value, top of footing, and I'll attach the top of the balcony floor. I'll dismiss this warning again. One more time for the final column here. And we're done.